May 2nd, 2025, 3:47 a.m., Nova Scotia. While RCMP officers searched the woods surrounding the Sullivan home, while volunteers combed through dense brush calling out names, while a community rallied to find two missing individuals, inside the house on Gairloch Road, something unusual was documented by investigators. The washing machine was running, not just once, multiple cycles. Through the darkest hours of the morning, RCMP investigators would later examine that washing machine. They would test what remained in the drum. They would analyze the drain trap. They would review the machine's digital logs. And what they found would raise significant questions about the events of that night. Questions that investigators continue to examine. Because when two individuals are missing, when every second matters, when searchers are working to find them, unusual activity inside the home requires explanation. The washing machine evidence became a focal point of the investigation. Lily and Jack Sullivan, the washing machine incident that night. RCMP analysis is shocking. 8 months ago, on May 2nd, 2025, Lily Sullivan and her brother Jack were reported missing from their home in Lansdowne Station, Pictou County, Nova Scotia. The individuals lived with their mother, Malahia Brooks Murray, and her partner, Daniel Martell, in a mobile home on Gairloch Road. At 10:01 that morning, a 911 call reported the individuals had wandered away from the property. What followed was one of the most intensive missing persons investigations in Nova Scotia history. Over 160 searchers deployed. 4 square kilometers of heavily wooded terrain searched. Helicopters, drones, police dogs, ground teams. The search was scaled back after 6 days when no trace was found. But the investigation did not stop. RCMP Major Crime Unit took over, and investigators began examining not just the woods, but the home itself. Every room, every surface, every object, including the washing machine in the small laundry area of the mobile home. Before we examine what RCMP discovered about the washing machine and why it raised investigative questions, if you are following the case of Lily and Jack Sullivan, or if you want to understand how forensic analysis of household appliances works in investigations, subscribe to Unsolved Archive and turn on notifications. We focus on the investigation, the evidence, and the search for truth. Now let us break down what happened with that washing machine, what RCMP found, and why investigators consider it significant evidence requiring further examination. The discovery of the washing machine activity came early in the investigation, but its significance took time to fully understand. When RCMP first responded to the scene on May 2nd, they noted that the home appeared relatively normal. There were signs of the morning routine, breakfast dishes in the sink, beds that had been slept in, toys in the living area. But there were also things that seemed out of place. The bathroom showed signs of recent use, towels were damp, the floor had water marks, and in the small laundry area off the kitchen, the washing machine and dryer were both warm to the touch. Not hot, but noticeably warm, as if they had been used recently, very recently. Investigators made note of this. They photographed the machines. They documented their condition, but at that stage the focus was on finding the missing individuals. The washing machine was just one detail among thousands. It would be days before investigators realized its potential significance. The first significant clue came from the washing machine itself. Modern washing machines, particularly those manufactured in the last decade, contain digital components, timers, cycle counters, internal logs that track usage. The washing machine in the Sullivan home was a relatively recent model, not top of the line but modern enough to have basic digital tracking. RCMP investigators worked with the manufacturer to access the machine's internal data. What they found was a detailed record of every cycle run in the previous 72 hours. The data showed the machine had been used extensively on the night of May 1st into the early morning of May 2nd. Multiple loads, back to back, starting at 2:37 a.m. and continuing until 4:51 a.m. 6 separate wash cycles, each running a full program. Hot water, heavy-duty settings, extended rinse. The machine had run almost continuously for over 2 hours during hours when, according to statements provided, individuals in the home were believed to be asleep. The machine's logs revealed more than just timing. They showed the settings used. Each cycle had been set to the hottest water temperature available. Each cycle used the heavy-duty wash option, designed for heavily soiled items. Each cycle included an extra rinse. which uses additional water to flush out detergent and anything else in the drum. Investigators noted these settings were not typical for routine laundry. These were settings that might be used for items requiring aggressive cleaning. RCMP investigators recognized this pattern raised questions. Why would someone run multiple cycles with these specific settings during those particular hours? Investigators then examined what was in the washing machine when they arrived. The drum was empty, completely empty, no clothes, no towels, nothing. But the dryer contained items, several pieces of clothing, adult clothing. Specifically, items that appeared to belong to Daniel Martell. A pair of jeans, a dark-colored shirt, socks, underwear. The clothes were still slightly damp, indicating they had been in the dryer recently, but the cycle had not completed, or it had been stopped. Investigators bagged these items as evidence. They would be sent to the RCMP forensic laboratory for analysis. But even before the lab results came back, investigators had questions. Why were these clothes in the dryer at that hour? Why had laundry been done during the middle of the night? And where were the other 5 loads? If the machine had run 6 cycles, but only 1 load of clothing was in the dryer, where had the other items gone? Information came from interviews conducted during the investigation. In an initial statement to police, Daniel Martell said he had been asleep all night. He said he went to bed around 10:30 p.m. on May 1st. He said he woke up around 9 a.m. on May 2nd when Malahia discovered the individuals were not in their room. He said he did not hear anything during the night. He said he did not get up. He said he slept straight through until morning. But when investigators asked specifically about the laundry, the statement changed. Daniel admitted he had done some laundry that night. He said he woke up around 3 a.m. and could not get back to sleep. He said he decided to do laundry to be productive. He said it was normal for him to do household chores at odd hours because he often had trouble sleeping. He said there was nothing unusual about it. He said he washed his work clothes because they were dirty. He said he put them in the dryer and went back to bed. He said he forgot about them until police arrived. But this explanation presented inconsistencies with the physical evidence. The machine's logs showed 6 cycles, not 1. The logs showed continuous operation from 2:37 a.m. to 4:51 a.m., not a single load around 3 a.m. The logs showed settings designed for heavy cleaning, not routine laundry. And the statements had contradictions. First, sleep all night. Then, woke at 3 a.m. to do laundry. First, 1 load, then logs showed 6. First, work clothes. But investigators found no work clothes in the dryer, only casual clothing. These inconsistencies between statements and physical evidence raised questions for investigators about what had occurred that night. RCMP forensic investigators conducted extensive testing on the washing machine itself. They examined the drum. They swabbed every surface inside. They removed and tested the rubber seal around the door. They extracted water from the drain trap. They dismantled the lint filter. They examined the detergent dispenser. They were looking for biological evidence: blood, tissue, DNA, anything that might have been washed through the machine during those 6 cycles. The testing was complex. Washing machines are designed to remove substances. Hot water, detergent, and mechanical agitation break down and flush away almost everything. But forensic science has advanced. Even when something has been washed away, traces can remain. In the microscopic grooves of plastic, in the fibers caught in seals, in the residue at the bottom of the drum. RCMP investigators knew where to look. The results of the forensic testing were significant. Luminol testing of the washing machine drum produced positive reactions in multiple areas. Luminol is a chemical that reacts with iron found in blood, creating a blue glow under ultraviolet light. Even when blood has been cleaned, even when it has been diluted and washed away, luminol can detect traces. The drum of the washing machine showed multiple positive reactions. Not the entire drum, but concentrated areas. Patterns that suggested blood might have been present. The reactions were strong enough that RCMP investigators believed biological material had potentially been washed through the machine. But luminol alone cannot determine whose blood it is, or even confirm definitively that it is blood. Other substances can cause false positives, so additional testing was required. DNA analysis of samples extracted from the washing machine drain trap provided more specific results. The drain trap is a curved section of pipe beneath the machine designed to prevent odors from backing up into the house, but it also catches debris, small particles, fibers, biological material. Everything that goes through the washing machine passes through the drain trap, and some of it stays there. RCMP forensic technicians removed the drain trap, carefully preserving its contents. They extracted liquid. They collected solid particles. They isolated biological material. And they submitted it all for DNA testing. The results showed the presence of DNA from multiple individuals. DNA consistent with Malahia Brooks Murray, DNA consistent with Daniel Martell, and DNA consistent with two other individuals. Two individuals whose biological samples had been collected from their toothbrushes, their hairbrushes, and their clothing in the days after they went missing. Lily and Jack Sullivan. The presence of DNA from Lily and Jack in the washing machine drain trap raised significant investigative questions. First, it confirmed that items connected to them had been washed through the machine recently. The DNA was not old. It was not residual from clothes washed weeks earlier. The concentration and condition of the biological material indicated it had been deposited during recent wash cycles. Second, the DNA was found mixed with other biological indicators. Forensic analysts found traces consistent with tissue, with bodily fluids beyond what would be expected from worn clothing. The analysis suggested something more than routine clothing might have been washed. Third, the timing connected directly to the machine's usage logs. The DNA was found in material that would have passed through the drain trap during cycles run in the early morning hours of May 2nd, the same cycles the machine logs documented. But perhaps most significantly, the forensic analysis found evidence of cleaning agents beyond standard laundry detergent. Chemical testing revealed the presence of bleach in concentrations much higher than would be expected from normal laundry practices. Bleach destroys DNA. It breaks down biological material. It can be used to eliminate traces of evidence. The presence of bleach in the drain trap, mixed with DNA from the missing individuals, raised questions about what had been washed and why these particular settings and chemicals were used. Investigators also examined what items were missing from the home. Family members and friends were asked to review the residence and identify anything that should have been there but was not. Several items could not be accounted for. Bedding from one of the rooms, specific towels that had been in the bathroom, a bathroom mat, several articles of clothing belonging to the individuals. None of these items were found in the home. They were not in the washing machine. They were not in the dryer. They were not in the laundry basket. They were not anywhere in the residence. RCMP investigators noted these items were unaccounted for. Their absence, combined with the forensic evidence from the machine, raised questions about what had been washed that night and where those items might be now. The washing machine evidence also connects to other aspects of the investigation. Neighbors reported hearing unusual activity from the Sullivan home in the early morning hours of May 2nd. One neighbor, who lived close enough to hear sounds from the property, told RCMP she woke around 3:30 a.m. to the sound of a vehicle starting. She looked out her window and saw lights on in the Sullivan home. She thought it was odd, but went back to sleep. She did not realize the potential significance until days later when investigators interviewed her. Another neighbor reported seeing someone outside the home around 4:30 a.m., carrying what appeared to be garbage bags to a vehicle. The neighbor assumed it was early morning activity and thought nothing of it at the time. Investigators documented these statements as part of the overall timeline they were constructing. RCMP also documented observations about behavior in the hours and days following the disappearance. Multiple witnesses described observations that investigators noted as potentially significant. Officers documented their interactions and observations in official reports. These observations became part of the investigative file that prosecutors would later review. The psychological aspect of the washing machine evidence has been analyzed by forensic psychologists consulted by RCMP. These experts noted that washing items in the middle of the night, particularly during hours when two individuals are unaccounted for, represents a pattern that warrants examination. It suggests someone who is thinking clearly enough to operate a machine through multiple cycles, someone who is calm enough to manage complex tasks, someone who is organized enough to use specific settings. Forensic psychologists note this level of organized behavior during what should be a crisis period raises questions that investigators must explore. The case has been compared to other investigations where laundry evidence played a role. Similar patterns have been documented in other cases where household appliances were used in attempts to clean items. Forensic investigators have studied these cases and applied lessons learned to ensure evidence in the Sullivan case is properly documented, tested, and preserved. The forensic analysis of the washing machine extended beyond just the drum and drain trap. RCMP investigators also examined the rubber door seal, a component that often traps debris and biological material. The seal is designed to prevent water from leaking out during cycles, but its construction creates small pockets and folds where material can accumulate. Forensic technicians carefully removed the seal and examined every fold. They found fibers, small textile fragments, and biological material. The fibers matched bedding material known to have been in the home. The biological material underwent DNA testing. Results showed genetic material consistent with the missing individuals. The concentration of this material suggested it had been deposited during recent wash cycles, not accumulated over months of regular use. This finding corroborated what investigators had documented through other testing. Investigators also consulted with experts in laundry forensics, a specialized field that examines washing machines as evidence repositories. These experts explained that washing machines, despite being designed to clean, can preserve trace evidence. The mechanics of how a washing machine works means that not everything goes down the drain. Heavier particles settle in the drum. Lighter materials stick to wet surfaces. Fibers catch in seals and filters, and the drain trap acts as a collection point. An expert brought in to examine the Sullivan washing machine stated that the pattern of evidence was consistent with items heavily contaminated with biological material having been washed. The expert noted that the concentration of DNA in the drain trap, the presence of tissue fragments in the seal, and the luminol reactions in the drum all pointed to similar conclusions. Something more than routine laundry appeared to have been processed through this machine. The investigation also revealed purchases made at a local store in the hours before the individuals were reported missing. Receipt records obtained by RCMP showed a visit to a 24-hour convenience store at approximately 1:47 a.m. on May 2nd. Surveillance footage from the store confirmed this visit. Several items were purchased. Among them was a large container of bleach. The store clerk who worked that shift told investigators she remembered the transaction because it was unusual to have someone buying bleach at that hour. The bleach container found at the Sullivan home was the same brand purchased that night, but the container was nearly empty when investigators found it. According to the product information, the container held 3.7 liters when full. The container found at the home contained less than 300 milliliters. Approximately 3.4 liters had been used in the hours between the purchase at 1:47 a.m. and when RCMP arrived on scene later that morning. This timeline raised questions for investigators. The purchase was made at 1:47 a.m. Washing machine cycles began at 2:37 a.m. The cycles continued until 4:51 a.m. During this time, nearly an entire container of bleach was used. 6 loads were washed. Hot water and heavy-duty settings were used on every cycle. Witnesses reported activity outside the home around 4:30 a.m. Investigators documented this timeline as part of their ongoing examination of the events of that night. Defense attorneys representing Daniel Martell have argued that the washing machine evidence is circumstantial. They argue that DNA from individuals who live in a home can be found throughout that home, including in washing machines. They argue that luminol reactions can be caused by substances other than blood. They argue that doing laundry at unusual hours does not prove involvement in a disappearance. They argue that the evidence requires context and that multiple interpretations are possible. Prosecutors and investigators note that the totality of the evidence must be considered. The DNA was not just present, but found in concentrations and contexts that raise questions. The luminol reactions were strong and patterned. The timing coincided with other documented evidence. The changing statements about the laundry activity are documented. The investigation continues as prosecutors determine what charges, if any, can be supported by the evidence. The legal standard for bringing charges in cases like this is high. Prosecutors must be confident they can prove their case beyond reasonable doubt. They must have evidence that can withstand scrutiny in court. They must be able to demonstrate not just that something unusual occurred, but that specific individuals were involved in specific actions. The washing machine evidence is one piece of a larger puzzle. Investigators are working to determine how all the pieces fit together. They are examining whether the evidence collectively tells a story that meets the legal standard for prosecution. This process takes time. It requires careful analysis. It requires consultation with forensic experts, legal experts, and investigative specialists. The goal is not to rush to charges, but to ensure that when charges are brought, they are supported by evidence that can lead to conviction. The impact of the washing machine evidence on the investigation cannot be understated, but it must also be understood in proper context. Forensic evidence provides data. It shows what was present. It shows when activities occurred. It shows patterns of behavior. But interpreting that evidence requires careful analysis. Multiple experts have reviewed the washing machine evidence. Forensic scientists have analyzed the DNA. Chemists have examined the bleach concentrations. Engineers have interpreted the machine logs. Behavioral analysts have reviewed the timeline. Each expert provides a piece of the puzzle. Together, their analyses help investigators understand what might have occurred. But the key word is might. Until charges are filed and a trial occurs, the evidence is part of an ongoing investigation, not proof of specific actions by specific individuals. The washing machine evidence has also been examined in the context of similar cases from other jurisdictions. Investigators have studied cases where washing machines played a role in evidence collection. They have reviewed how courts have treated such evidence. They have examined what standards judges have applied when determining admissibility. They have looked at how juries have interpreted washing machine evidence in deliberations. This comparative analysis helps ensure the Sullivan case evidence is handled properly. It helps investigators understand what additional evidence might be needed. It helps prosecutors understand what arguments they may face in court. And it helps ensure that the evidence, when ultimately presented, meets all legal standards for admissibility and relevance. The technical aspects of washing machine forensics have evolved significantly in recent years. A decade ago, investigators might not have known to examine drain traps for DNA. They might not have understood how to extract evidence from rubber seals. They might not have had access to the digital logs that modern machines create. But forensic science advances. New techniques are developed. New technologies become available. The Sullivan case benefits from these advances. Investigators were able to extract evidence that would have been missed in earlier investigations. They were able to document activities with precision that was not possible before. They were able to analyze biological material at concentrations that older technology could not detect. This demonstrates the importance of continuous training for forensic investigators. It demonstrates the value of investing in new technologies. And it demonstrates why cold cases are sometimes solved years later, not because new evidence appears, but because new ways of analyzing old evidence become available. The investigation has also examined the broader context of events on May 1st and 2nd. The washing machine activity did not occur in isolation. It occurred as part of a sequence of events that investigators are working to understand. Phone records show calls made and received. Surveillance footage shows vehicles moving. Witness statements describe sounds heard and activities observed. Financial records show purchases made. Digital data shows internet searches conducted. All of these data points are being analyzed together. The washing machine evidence is significant, but it is most significant when understood as part of this larger picture. Investigators are building a timeline. They are documenting who was where at what time. They are examining what actions were taken and in what order. They are looking for patterns. They are looking for inconsistencies. They are working to understand the complete sequence of events that led to 2 individuals being reported missing. Public interest in the case has been intense. The washing machine evidence, when it became publicly known through court filings and media reports, generated significant discussion. Many people found it suspicious. Many people had questions. Many people formed opinions. But public opinion and legal proof are different things. The court of public opinion does not require evidence beyond reasonable doubt. It does not have rules of admissibility. It does not provide rights to the accused. The actual legal system operates differently. It moves more slowly. It requires more proof. It provides more protections. This is by design. The legal system is built to ensure that when someone is convicted of a crime, the evidence supporting that conviction is solid. The washing machine evidence, regardless of how compelling it may seem to the public, must meet legal standards before it can be used to secure a conviction. Prosecutors are working to ensure those standards are met. The role of forensic science in modern investigations continues to expand. Cases like the Sullivan investigation demonstrate both the power and the limitations of forensic evidence. The power is clear. Scientists can now detect biological material at incredibly small concentrations. They can extract DNA from places most people would never think to look. They can analyze digital logs from appliances to reconstruct activities. They can use chemical analysis to determine what substances were used and in what quantities. This is remarkable. But there are also limitations. Forensic evidence tells us what was present, but not always what it means. DNA in a drain trap tells us items were washed, but not necessarily what those items were or why they were washed. Luminol reactions tell us something that might be blood was present, but not whose blood or how it got there. Machine logs tell us when cycles ran, but not what was in those cycles. Interpreting forensic evidence requires context. It requires corroboration. It requires understanding the limitations of what the science can and cannot tell us. The investigation continues with multiple active lines of inquiry. The washing machine evidence is one line, but investigators are also examining other aspects of the case. They are looking at financial records. They are analyzing communication patterns. They are reviewing historical incidents. They are interviewing additional witnesses. They are consulting with experts in various fields. Each line of inquiry may provide additional evidence. Each may help fill in gaps in the timeline. Each may help answer questions that remain. The goal is to build a complete picture of what occurred, a picture supported by multiple streams of evidence, a picture that can withstand the scrutiny of defense attorneys and the standards of the legal system. The RCMP Major Crime Unit continues to build its case file. Investigators have conducted additional testing on items seized from the property. They have re-interviewed witnesses. They have reviewed hours of surveillance footage from the area. They have analyzed cell phone records. They have consulted with experts in forensic science, behavioral analysis, and criminal psychology. The washing machine evidence is one component of a larger investigation that includes multiple streams of evidence. Investigators continue their work as prosecutors review the file. It has now been 8 months since Lily and Jack Sullivan were reported missing on May 2, 2025. The RCMP Major Crime Unit continues to lead the investigation with support from agencies across Canada. The washing machine evidence remains under analysis as investigators work to build the case file. Additional forensic testing is ongoing. Additional witnesses are being interviewed. And additional evidence is being gathered. The case has drawn national attention. It has generated extensive public interest. And it has demonstrated how modern forensic science can extract evidence from household appliances. If you have information about the case of Lily and Jack Sullivan, the Northeast Nova RCMP Major Crime Unit asks that you come forward. Even small details could be important. Information about activities on May 1st and 2nd. Information about vehicles seen in the area. Information about items that may have been disposed of. Any information that could assist the investigation. Contact the RCMP at 902-896-5060 or contact Nova Scotia Crime Stoppers to remain anonymous. And if you want to follow developments in this investigation, subscribe to Unsolved Archive. Hit that like button if you believe this case deserves continued investigative resources. And leave a comment with your thoughts on what the washing machine evidence might indicate. Because here at Unsolved Archive, we believe that every case deserves thorough investigation. Every piece of evidence matters, and answers when they come should be based on facts and proper legal process.